Hello my veggie foodies, welcome back to my channel. As you all can see, we are in a new location. We have moved. I will be coming to you with some new content about our moving process and our new location. So it's that time of year and I'm sure everyone is craving some dressing. So I have my cornbread here and I'm going to show you a quick recipe for a vegan dressing. I hope you're ready. Is getting the celery and onion going on the stove. We're going to cook it down in a cup of broth. Instead of buying a lot of new containers of broth, I actually like to use the bouillon cubes for my broth. Right now I've been using Edward & Sons. They have great vegan options for bouillon cubes. They have not chicken, not veggie, I think not beef. They have a curry one, but today I'm just going to use the not chicken. So technically half a cube is what you would use for 1 cup of broth, but I'm going to use the whole cube because I like a little more flavor. So we're going to get that going with the celery, onion, and the broth cooking down, and then we're also going to get what we're using for our gravy cooking down. I'll explain as we go along. Okay, so I have my bouillon cube in the pot. Now we're going to add 1 sweet onion and 4 celery stalks that are cooked down. So we're gonna pour this all in there. Hopefully I do not make a mess. I did a little bit, but it's okay. I said 1 cup, but you may end up needing to add a little more. But we're gonna see. We're gonna get this on the stove, get it cooking down. And I'm also going to add, just because I like garlic and I feel like you can never have too much, I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of minced garlic, which is equivalent to about 2 cloves of garlic. Alrighty. So we're gonna get this cooking down on the stove so that'll be ready to add to the mixture once we finish with the dry ingredients. So there's plenty of recipes that you can find online for a vegan gravy, but you know I'm really big for using easy, quick hacks. So I'm gonna test this out and we'll figure out if it works or not together. I'm actually going to use this Portobello mushroom creamy soup as my base. That'll keep me from having to do too much, you know, doing the flour and all that. So this is the Imagine brand. It's a Portobello mushroom creamy soup. And then we're also gonna use it as our gravy for when we're dressing the dressing. So here I have about 16 ounces of the Portobello mushroom soup. I'm gonna pour that on in. Alrighty, and I have about 4 more ounces that is sat on the side, but that's actually what I'm going to use towards the end to add my cornstarch in to thicken up the soup. Because you don't add cornstarch into the hot mixture, you actually add cornstarch on the side while it's cold, or else it'll kind of clump up in your gravy. So I have my mushrooms diced here, so we're gonna add those in. And I may actually not need all of these mushrooms. I actually use just a full container, but I think if I add all of them, it may be mushroom overload, believe it or not. So we're gonna do about, I guess you say almost 3/4 of a container of mushrooms. So we're gonna get that on the stove, and then I'll just throw some seasoning in as we go. I'm gonna do the usual seasonings. I always do an onion powder, garlic powder, those are given. I'll probably add a little, I'm actually gonna add some mushroom umami seasoning in there. Since it's mushroom already, why not just throw more mushroom flavor in there? So I'm gonna throw in some mushroom umami flavor, some pepper, and then a little salt. Now I'm adding some mushroom umami flavor because like I said, we already have the mushrooms going. You may as well add some more in. Give it a little punch. And then we're gonna add in some fresh cracked pepper. You don't have to use fresh cracked pepper, but that's what I'm using today. As I said, just do as much as you like because it's pepper, it's okay. Go crazy. Now, you may not want to go crazy on the salt. We're not gonna add too much salt, probably just a few grinds, honestly. And this is Himalayan pink salt, so as you can see, these grinds are a little bigger, so you probably don't want to go too heavy. Alrighty, so we have our seasonings in there. I'm just gonna mix that in, get it on the stove. You don't wanna boil it, just wanna get it warm because it is a soup. And as I said, I have about 4 ounces of the soup on the side. Once it's done warming up, I'm going to mix some cornstarch in on the side, and then I'm gonna add it to the soup to thicken it up, and then we'll add it to our dry mixture. So I know earlier I said that I was doing 1 cup for the veggie broth, but I did add 4 ounces, so I did 1.5 cups because the 1 cup just wasn't enough. So you may want to add another 4 ounces to your mixture with the veggie broth, the onion, and the celery. So as you can see, I've added my gloves because it's the fun part where we're actually mixing the dry ingredients, and so you know, you just want to be clean. So you want to get your cornbread that you've seen earlier that we already baked. Okay, and so this is something, if you have kids, this may be something fun to do. As you see, it lifts up perfectly. It's not even like, because if you do the butter right, it's just slide right out. So this is the part I always enjoy doing with my mom. And you just crumble. Oops, I dropped some, but it's okay because it's gonna go in there. And you just crumble it up, okay? And the good thing about this is it's already nice and buttery, but if you know me, you know we're adding more butter anyway. So this cornbread is already nice and moist, so it already acts like it kind of wants to clump, which will be good once we add the rest of the ingredients. So you want to get it nice and broken down, of course, because you don't want the dressing to be too clumpy. So I do think I enjoy this part a little too much. Like I said, this was always my favorite part growing up with my mom, was breaking down the cornbread. And so now that we have it broken down pretty well, I don't mind a few kind of bigger chunks, especially the parts that are like the edge that are kind of crunchy, because it just gives you that satisfying crunch when you're eating the dressing. Don't judge me, I like crunchy things. So if you want to get either panko breadcrumbs, that's a tongue twister, panko breadcrumbs, or just regular breadcrumbs, and you can season them on your own. But this time I was able to finally find some that were already pre-seasoned. So now you just mix it all up once again, so you get to play in your food again. Like I said, if you have kids, this may be a fun part for them. Get some gloves on just in case, you know, can't be too careful. And just mix it in until it's all nice and combined. Okay, so now that we have all of our dry ingredients mixed in, we're going to add in our wet ingredients. So I'm gonna keep my gloves on because I'm gonna continue to mix with my hands. So first, what we wanna do is, you can never have too much butter, right? So I am using vegan butter. Honestly, you can use whatever your preferred vegan butter stick is. I mean, that's just completely up to you. I'm actually trying a new one this time. And you know, it's okay. But it seems to be doing pretty well. But it melts very quickly compared to the ones I usually use. So I'm actually just gonna sit that stick of butter right there. Okay? Because you're gonna use all the buttery goodness. Actually has my gloves a little gross. Okay, so now we're going to get our celery and onion and garlic mixture that's been cooked down till it was translucent. So we're actually gonna pour that directly onto the butter stick, and so it's going to melt it instead of us having to pre-melt the butter. So we're gonna pour that directly on the butter stick, and you get to see it melt. Isn't it satisfying? Get out. All right, get out of there. Oops. Okay, I think we got most of it. That's the main part. And I'm actually not gonna mix that directly with my hands because it'll probably burn me. So we're gonna get a spoon. So we're gonna start I lied. Before we start mixing this in, we're going to add our egg substitute. So use what egg substitute you like. I prefer to use a liquid form of egg substitute. Do you see me through all the steam?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Amazing. Does it look cool? Okay. So I have 3 teaspoons, not teaspoons, I have 3 tablespoons of just egg in here, and that's what I'm using as my substitute for 1 regular egg. So I'm gonna add 1 substitute egg for real egg. So 3 tablespoons of just egg. So then we're gonna give it a good mixing. It's thick, thicker than a Snicker. This looks so good. I'm trying not to eat it now. I think I need a better spoon. And I'm back. We got a better, heavier duty spoon because the plastic one was bending, so that we could kind of better mix things. I would mix it with my hands, but as I said, the ingredients that I added are hot. So we're just gonna try to get that in. And as you can tell, even though it's mixing in, you can tell it still needs a little more liquid at the bottom. And we're actually going to make up for the rest of that liquid that we need in here with what I use as my cream of mushroom substitute, okay? And that's actually finished cooking down on the stove now. And the good thing about making a vegan dressing is that you can taste it to make sure it's what you want before you bake it. So you don't have the, oh, I hope it's good, because you know, I mean, pretty much what it's gonna taste like once you bake it is what it's gonna taste like when you finish putting all the ingredients and mixing everything together. So now we're gonna add in our cream of mushroom soup, which in this case is the mushroom soup that we're using as cream of mushroom soup, okay? I'm going to add in about, maybe around, I don't know how many ounces right now. We're just gonna see. We're gonna figure it out as we go. Because I don't want too much, but you don't want too less, okay? So we're just gonna add it, and then I'm gonna see if I need more, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so this is our cream of mushroom soup. You see all that mushroomy goodness? I used to not eat mushrooms, so I've come a long way. You should be proud of me. I'll add a little more. Okay, and then we're gonna leave the rest on the side for gravy for later. And I'll probably add a little more seasoning and a little more cornstarch to make the gravy a little thicker. But for now, we're mainly just using it to add a little more, I guess, liquidness to the dressing. So, and it has plenty of seasoning in here, so I think we're good on having to add more seasoning. And I think I'm making a mess here, trying to mix it all in. Between baking the cornbread and lifting that cast iron with one arm, and now this, it's a workout. Okay, so last step before it goes in the oven, I already melted down some butter just to coat the skillet so that it doesn't stick. I'm actually gonna bake it in the same casserole dish that I'm not calling it a casserole dish. I'm actually baking it in the same cast iron skillet that I made the cornbread. So I'm not using too many dishes, and it'll give it a nice crispiness, which you know I like. So I already mixed in all my wet ingredients, my butter and everything. And at this point, you just season it to taste. I feel like mine is actually seasoned pretty well, but I'm just gonna add a little pepper. And then just a little more of this vegan chickenless seasoning. And this is actually from Trader Joe's. And so this is what I've been using for my chickenless seasoning. But this actually has some salt in it, so you don't want to go too crazy unless you want a very, very salty dressing. So now that this is cooled off a little bit, I can use my hand again. So I'm gonna give this one nice mix again. Like I said, this is very satisfying for me. I don't know why. And you haven't seen me off camera, but I've been tasting it as I go, and I'm trying not to eat it all before it gets in the skillet. That's when you know you've done good. If it tastes good before you put it in the oven, then you've done good. Scoop it into our skillet with the melted butter. So you want to kind of pack it down. And if everything doesn't fit in here, then we have other containers that we can put it in. You want to be fancy and try to add a pattern or something, you're probably good. Maybe you can add some finger waves to it. But anyway, and so now we're going to lightly cover it with some foil. I've had my oven preheating at 350, and so we're going to bake it at 350 with lightly covered in foil, not tight on there, but lightly covered for about 45 minutes. And then we're gonna cook it uncovered for about 20 to 25 minutes, okay? And then we're gonna uncover it, let it breathe a little bit, and that's gonna help it give its nice crunchy top. Okay, set your timer and we wait. Okay, so now it's the best part, and that's taste testing, okay? Gotta make sure I get my crispy edge, because it wouldn't be me if I didn't. Ooh. You hear that crunch? That's good. So there you have it, guys. If you thought you couldn't have a good dressing that was vegan, I have shown you otherwise. So stay tuned, because I have more things coming for you for vegans and vegetarians for this season. Bye, guys.